Hey, Brenda. Perfect. I can hear you. We are live, actually. I think we just went live. Yeah,
Yay!
we are 1 minute early. I figured probably better. Hi, Joseph. Wonderful. Yeah, better to be like a minute early than a little late. Wonderful. Yeah, we excited to do this. I have to admit, I got a webcam specifically for this webinar.
Nice.
Yeah, it's quite a difference sometimes. My computer has not the best setup otherwise, so I'm excited. Cool. So who do we have here? Ty. So for folks just joining us, I see we are starting to see people join in. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. If you have a moment, please go to chat and mention where you are joining us from. I'm here in San Francisco. What about you, Brenda?
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Amazing. Atlanta, Vancouver, of course. Hi, Reed. Phoenix, beauty. Chicago, Stockholm, amazing. So must be late for you, Danielle. Thank you for joining us. Cool. We have great representation across. We have Canada, we have US. Awesome. Cool. Well, I've been really looking forward to this. Hi, Stanley. Do we have more Canadians? I'm selfishly here looking to see. Toronto, yes. Welcome. Amazing. Cool. Well, just to let everyone know, we are recording this already. So this will be available after the presentation. And we'll be kicking off in just about a moment. I'm so excited to kick things off, introduce Brenda, and get started. Cool. Well, if you're originally from Canada, that counts. I am from Canada, in San Francisco right now, but Canada, representing Canada, always. Cool. Well, let's start slowly kicking things off. We have quite an agenda for today. I'm excited to show you what we have prepared. So let me start off with my screen. Let's see. All right, San Antonio, Texas, welcome. Perfect. So just confirming that all of you can see my screen at this point. A thumbs up would be great.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Thank you. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks. Beauty. So first of all, welcome everyone. Awesome to have you here. We are going to be talking about the OpenPhone Zapier integration today. There will be a live demo closer to the end, and I'm very excited about that. Today, we're thrilled to have, so maybe to give you a bit of an intro, my name is Daryna. I'm one of the founders here at OpenPhone. Many of you probably have received emails from me, and we've been in touch in some capacity. Really thrilled to be here, and very, very excited to have Brenda joining us today. I will let her introduce herself shortly. She is a partner manager at Zapier, helping and working with a lot of partners like us today. Really launch platforms on the Zapier in the Zapier ecosystem. So thrilled to have Brenda. Maybe Brenda, if you want to say a couple of words.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Daryna. My name is Brenda Travassos. Difficult last name. It sounds or looks scarier than it really is, but Brenda is great. I currently reside in south of Salt Lake City, Utah, and joined Zapier what seems like a moment ago, but about 8 weeks ago. I previously was with Bamboo HR, and then before that was a teacher, and found my way into tech. So happy to be here, and let's let's get this ball rolling. It should be fun.
Exciting, very exciting. And also, thank you too. I'm glad my pronunciation of Zapier is correct. You just confirmed that for me, because I know people sometimes wonder how to pronounce it. So cool. So in terms of the agenda, Brenda will be sharing an overview of Zapier. I think for many of you who are a little bit newer to the platform, this would be a great way to learn about the platform. I will be telling you briefly about how OpenPhone works with Zapier. And then, of course, what you're all here for, we're going to do a demo. I want to make sure there is time at the end for Q&A. So let's make sure we go through things quite quickly. And also just want to mention that my colleague Ty, who many of you know, probably talked to him in one way or another. He leads our customer experience team, and he is going to be moderating the chat. So if you have any questions as we go along, please do post them in the chat, and we will either address them during Q&A, or Ty will be able to answer as we go through. So perfect. So Brenda, I will pass it on to you at this point. Here we go.
Cool. So a little bit about Zapier before we get into more of the nitty gritty. We're currently number 24 on the 2020 Forbes Cloud 100. This is a list Forbes puts together, showing what they think are the best private cloud companies in the world, and we made 24. That was up from 33 the year before, so that's pretty cool. Something that makes Zapier unique is that we're a totally remote company. This means we've never had a central office. And while we don't have a central office, we still tend to get together, or try to get together, at least twice a year, and for individual team retreats. Of course, COVID dampened that, like it did so many things. But 2021, we're going to get back on track with that. We currently have over 400 employees, and we're growing constantly, like the rocket ship it is. And this means that we serve 1.8 million customers or individuals that use Zapier. Pretty cool stats. This results in about 10 hours a week per person saved through automation. Pretty incredible. If you do the math on that, that equals about 520 hours a year that each individual that uses Zapier saves. Or in other words, that's 13 weeks if you work a 40-hour work week. So if you could have 520 hours back to your life, what would you do with that? We absolutely love to hear from our customers and the people that use Zapier that say, hey, you know, we get a lot of time back to our families, and we get to do the things that we love because we've automated our workflows with Zapier. So one last item of business before we get started, Daryna mentioned this. We do pronounce it Zapier. You can remember that by saying Zapier makes you happier. So pretty easy. Sorry for the confusion. Happens a lot. We know. So what exactly is Zapier? Zapier is a tool that gives you back time in your life. Pretty simple. But what do we actually do? Well, the way we like to describe Zapier is it's a central hub for your data. We help you get your data from point A to point B, or app A to app B easily. The best part about Zapier is it's plug and play, which means anybody can use it and anybody can automate their workflows and then save themselves a lot of time and get to the matters that matter the most to you, get to the things that matter the most to you. So let's dive in and show you how this exactly plays out. So here we have an example using Typeform. Typeform creates forms that are filled out online, and new users can fill out these forms. So first of all, Zapier creates workflows, and those workflows are called zaps. And the thing that gets a zap started is a trigger. A trigger is something that will begin the workflow. So for example, a new user or a new potential client fills out a type form online, and that submission of the type form triggers a workflow to begin. For example, here, the trigger would be that it creates a new entry into MailChimp, or a new contact into HubSpot.
OpenPhone. This is actually,
well, I was going to use OpenPhone, but into any app that you want it to reside into. And that the movement of the data from the trigger to the app that you're going to is considered an action. in our specific case, for instance, the type form going into OpenPhone and creating a new contact or creating a new workflow in OpenPhone. And that's it. Zapier will create new subscribers in OpenPhone anytime a new form is filled out online. Once the Zap is turned on, those new leads will automatically be entered in and free you from the time of downloading or importing, exporting that data yourself. And this workflow can happen. There can be many actions attached to one workflow. Let's see. If you'll advance, Daryna, we can go clear to thousands of apps. We can see that with Zapier, there are thousands of apps. To be specific, over 3,000 apps that you can connect to. So again, that Grand Central data center where Zapier can literally connect 3, 4, 5 different apps, thousands of apps in one workflow. I wouldn't suggest thousands of apps in one workflow, but you know, we'd hate for that to break. So before I turn it back over to Daryna, I'd love to go over some terminology that's pretty important when you're beginning to use Zapier. When we refer to an app, we are talking about the application, the program that you would want to connect with Zapier. So in our example before, it was Typeform to OpenPhone. So those are the two apps that you would be using. A trigger is the event that kickstarts the Zap. So what do you want to have signal the automation, the workflow? That's your trigger. A Zap is what we call the actual automation and the workflow between your apps. It always has a trigger and to get started, and it can have multiple actions. And with that, I'll let Daryna take it over to show you the application within OpenPhone.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I'm just curious, and outside of OpenPhone, what is your favorite workflow, or maybe a workflow you've seen that's very cool? Because I know we're going to be talking about OpenPhone, but I want to make sure folks get inspired outside of that. Any cool workflows you've seen?
So as you can imagine, when I joined Zapier, Zapians, as they are called, have incredible amounts of Zaps. And honestly, I was like dumbfounded and struck how many Zaps there are that just save so much time. Some of the really cool ones I would have people check out are Slack, obviously. There are a lot of really cool Zaps. Another one that I thought was really cool, Daryna, when that I think is just awesome, when someone signed up for this event, this webinar, through a Zap, was able to send a message to say you've been you're registered. Things like that are really time saving and can really automate that task a lot easier than having to connect to apps that weren't connected via the API themselves. So I would say
for sure.
Some really cool ones like Slack seems like those are really, I've just seen amazing things at Zapier with that. So that's one of my favorites.
Thank you for sharing. That's very exciting. And yeah, I do have to say, some people here texted me back being like, oh, this is interesting. I will show you. I actually might just show you exactly what I did there. For anyone here who also runs webinars and wants to delight folks through some sort of a confirmation message, we can do that, and I'll show you exactly what I did. Thank you for finding it cool. I was mostly just playing around, so I'm glad I'm not the only one who finds it pretty fun. So thank you. I will move things over to a demo, but before we do that, I do want to sort of like take what Brenda mentioned about the structure of and how Zapier works, and really explain how OpenPhone connects with Zapier before showing you real life examples. So as Brenda mentioned, Zapier has triggers and actions, and the type of triggers that we support on OpenPhone, they are incoming message received, outgoing message delivered. So you can essentially trigger something. You can have something happen when you get a new message on OpenPhone or when you send a message through OpenPhone. So these are the first two. Then we have call-related triggers. So for example, if if you have an incoming call completed, you could pass on information about that call to another system. So that's one trigger. Outgoing call completed, same thing, but for outgoing calls. And one of my favorite ones is call recording completed. So if you use, there's one example that someone mentioned, I'm not sure if this person is on joining us today, but they mentioned they are a sales rep, and they record their calls, and to listen to those calls afterwards, they have them all stored, and then they kind of go through them and listen in, and which I know to me personally would be painful. I'm not going to watch this, by the way. Like, I hate hearing myself talk. So I don't know how they do it, but they listen to their recordings after and just really take notes and ways that they can improve, which is quite unique. So these are some of the triggers that are available. Now, we also have some actions available. And so there are two actions. The first one is you can have a trigger in another tool result in an OpenPhone action, like creating or updating a contact. And another action, which is, again, I will say this a lot, this is really my favorite, is sending a new message. So when all of you registered for this webinar, you received, if you left your phone number in that form, you received a text message from me welcoming you. So that is the action that we did here. Now, I know this is cool, but nothing beats a real life demo. So let me move on to that. All right. So no pressure here, demoing things, always fun. So let me show you this demo. And I will I have this like a little bit more complicated Zap here, where essentially what we want to do is the trigger will be an Airtable. So we're connecting Airtable to OpenPhone. And what we're doing really is I've created this very, very basic sort of CRM. As you can see, I'm adding records. And whenever a record goes from received to completed, so for example, maybe you have folks submitting some information or filling out a form, and you first receive it, that's the default state. But maybe then you look at the information, you say, okay, it looks good, let's send Pam a confirmation message, we've processed the request. And when you process the request, you can basically have the status go from received to completed, and you can have that event of really just changing the status. You can have that trigger something else, right? So let's see what we've created here. Here, essentially, when there is a new record in that view in Airtable, so you can see I've connected Airtable. The trigger event is new record in view. The account, I've connected my Airtable account here. And the actual trigger, right, I've set it up here. I say, hey, connect to my base. So I made a base called Zapier demo. The table is called CRM. It's a very basic CRM, nothing fancy. And the view is the requests completed. So really what I'm saying here is when a request goes from this view, from the main view, and when I mark it as completed, it enters this view, right? So here I'm filtering. I basically have a filter here saying, show me any requests that are actually completed. So whenever a request goes to that view, I can do something, right? I can do a bunch of things. But what I've decided to do here is, again, just before, let's look at the test here. As you can see, Michael Scott, Dunder Mifflin here, is pulled as a sample. So what will happen next? I want to create a contact in OpenPhone for this person, right? So that is the first action. I've connected my OpenPhone account. I say the action is create or update contact. The reason why it's update is because if we already have that contact, we really don't want to create it twice. And the way that I do that is, first, I connect my OpenPhone account. Second, this is really the good stuff here. So really what I need to do at this point is I need to basically tell OpenPhone what information to pull from Airtable. So I'm basically saying, hey, the ID for the contact should be the record ID. it's just a unique ID that essentially is stored to make sure we don't create duplicates. The first name is Michael. I'm mapping the last name, Scott. I have Dunder Mifflin here, regional manager, and this is the important part. I want to make sure I'm passing the right phone number because, of course, as you can imagine, we're going to be, we really need a phone number in OpenPhone. So we have that. I am also setting up, I'm passing the email address as well. So I'm basically creating this contact in OpenPhone. And one very cool thing, and I do want to highlight this, is that if you're using OpenPhone with your team, you probably don't want contacts to be just going to your account. You probably want contacts that are shared with your entire team. So what I'm doing here as well is I'm saying, share this contact with everyone in my company. Zest is just the name of the organization. I'm essentially saying share contacts with everyone. So when this gets created via Zapier, it does not just go into my account, it goes to everyone. So at this point, this looks good. Test action. You can see I did a bit of a test last night. It worked. Cool. We're gonna run it in real time, by the way. So I just want to show you the structure. So really at this point, we have a system where anytime this record moves into completed, we are creating a contact in OpenPhone. And the second thing I want to do, which you can kind of guess, I love this part, is I also want to send a message to this person being like, hey, maybe I want to give them more information, or just say, hey, by the way, we've completed your review of your application, here's the next step, right? Depending on why you're using this, you can use this for applicants if you have folks applying, to get some access in your platform, or maybe you're using this as a CRM for applicant tracking, basically for anything. It really depends. So I will set event is send a message. Again, all this stuff is already connected. And basically I'm saying, send it from this OpenPhone number, from my Canadian OpenPhone number. I can actually pick any number in my organization, but I've picked this Canadian number. And who do I send this to? I send it to essentially to the phone number of this person here, Michael Scott. And I can type any message I want. So I basically want to say something like, hey, Michael, thanks for your application. We'd love to have you come in for an interview. Please book a time with us here. And then, link. Maybe I'll do just as an example. Cool. Continue. So this is it. So at this point, we've actually connected everything correctly. I want to make sure it's on. This is where I sometimes struggle, is why is my Zap not running? Oh, it's off. I don't know, Brenda, if you've seen this, I run into this a lot. Let me make sure it's actually on. This is important. Okay, all green. Sorry for this. Okay, it's all green. Beauty. So at this point, let's actually test it out and make sure it works. I'm going to say Pam Halpert, and I'm moving this from received to completed. Cool. So now let's make sure this goes into completed. Yes, this works. Now I'm going to cross my fingers. I do want to tell you this, and maybe this is a question from Brenda. I know that based on the plan of Zapier you're on, there may be a sort of a limit to how many tasks you can be running at the same time. I do think I am on a pretty solid plan of Zapier. I think I'm on Pro. So I think this is pretty instant in my case, but let's verify this. So, all right, I sent it from this number. Let me refresh. It might take a moment. Let's hope. Okay, I sent it from this Canadian number. This was sent a little bit before. Okay, give it a second, please. Give it a second. Hey, things are, this is on. All right. One thing I will check is the following. I'm going to check my Zap history, and this is for everyone here. So I want to make sure. Okay, as you can see, what's happening here, I do think it's a little bit of a delay. I do want to make sure this goes through. So maybe we'll have to wait just a second. But hey, we're going to come back to that. I remember, I do think it might be a matter of a minute, really. So so let's see. I'm going to refresh this again. Okay. Still waiting a little bit. So basically, the one thing I found super helpful is when you have a ton of Zaps like me, always check your task usage, also like your Zapier Zap history, just to make sure things are running as expected. So I don't see this come through yet. As I showed you, I did make that Zap. It's turned on, so I'll just wait for a little bit. Meanwhile, I do want to show you another example. So let me show you the example that essentially all of you experienced, right? All of you registered for this webinar. And this is the example here. We use Livestorm for conducting this. And whenever a new person signs up for our webinar, we have a trigger where if you are a part of this webinar, new registrant, and if you actually leave a phone number, as you noticed, a phone number exists. Obviously, it's optional. We don't want to ask you for it if you are not comfortable. But if you do leave your phone number, we have this filter here. We create a contact for you in OpenPhone. And then I sent you this message. All of you, most of you received it, right? Hey, Daryna at OpenPhone here. Thanks for registering. See you there. Yes, I sent this via Zapier. So I do want to say that this is the one that Brenda mentioned and all of you experienced. I'm going to pause here. I actually want to see if you have any questions at this point, and I am going to be checking on our Zapier, on our history to make sure I see that we see that that event triggered properly. Do we have any questions at this point? Question. So we have a question from Daniel. I have something that's time critical. I want to trigger something when there is an incoming call and send a text. What needs to be that needs to be delivered instantly. I'm worried about delays. So, okay, there are a couple of options here, Daniel. First of all, what you're referring to is the option where OpenPhone would be both a trigger and an action. So essentially, it sounds like, okay, no. Please clarify if that is not, yeah, any clarification would be useful. Okay, not using OpenPhone as a trigger. All right, well, what is a trigger then? So maybe what would be helpful to know as you have questions is what do you want to be using as a trigger and what do you want to happen as an action? While you're typing, let's check back on our Zaps. I do want to make sure things worked as expected here. All right, by the way, success, right? It was 3 minutes ago. So while I was, all right, so you see this worked. Bingo, yay. I don't know if you can feel it, but I'm excited. This definitely worked. So look, I know you mentioned around the delay. It's you know, I'm not sure Brenda or anyone from Zapier who is able to sort of chime in on this. I do think believe from what I remember that based on the plan of Zapier you're on, there are just certain, like the better your plan, the less, the faster things happen. That's kind of what I understand. But I personally will tell you this, you know, sometimes like a minute delay is actually good because you know, you almost don't want people to be like, oh, wow, like it's instant. It's almost a little creepy, at least my experience. So so the delay is again, it's a minute, 2 minutes max. It's pretty natural. I never really experience it, and we use Zapier across the board. So as you can see, this came through, what, 3 minutes ago now. So so yeah, and you can also see that Pam Halpert is now a contact in my OpenPhone contacts. And so both actions worked quite seamlessly, in my opinion. I know they were not maybe super instant, but it worked. So
yeah, so I wanted to clarify on the plans. The Zapier plans and pricing is I can put a link in the chat for that, so you can see everything that's included in each plan. The quickness or the reply of zaps won't be determined on your plan. Plans are based on how many zaps and actions are taken. So your plan will increase as your usage increases, right? So it's based on usage. And then as far as whether or not it's faster or not, that's based on the configuration of the connection with Zapier, whether it's a webhook connection or a polling connection. But normally this happens pretty quickly and doesn't lag behind. So if the Zap is created correctly and installed and running, and again, making sure to run the Zap when you're creating it, making sure that there's no errors, etc., then you shouldn't have a problem on responsiveness of that Zap. A good philosophy though is to always check in on your Zaps and like Daryna was showing, to look in on the Zap history and make sure that everything's working, the triggers and actions and things like that, to review.
Yeah, we use Zapier. I mean, I can show you all the Zaps we have set up. This was never an issue. It's very much, I think in this case it was a very, very small delay, but it worked in the end. So hey, I'm happy. Cool. Any other questions? I do want to show you more things you can do, of course. And so what we went through at this point is I showed you the essentially the option where we have an action, right? So as you can see, we've created an OpenPhone contact, and we also send them a text message in response to a trigger, which was an Airtable. So we kind of covered already those two actions. Let's look at an example of when OpenPhone is a trigger, right? So let's look at that example possibly here. Let's see, I have quite a bit of Zaps. So one example is the following, and sometimes people tell me that they want to have a record of their text messages, whether for audit purposes or audit compliance, record keeping, you name it. And what they can do is they can set it up so the trigger is outgoing message delivered in OpenPhone, which means that whenever you send a text message through your OpenPhone number, this will trigger. As usual, I've connected my OpenPhone account. I've set up a trigger. One thing that's actually very handy, and someone asked me this question before, if you have multiple OpenPhone numbers, or if you have a whole company on OpenPhone, and you have we have, I don't know, almost 100 numbers at this point. If you have a ton of numbers, you can actually have this Zap really work for more than one number. I know we're getting into the territory of okay, things get a little bit more complicated, but look, if you want to set it up not just for you, but also for your colleagues, of course, there is also the Zapier for Teams option, but you can also essentially say, hey, let me hook it up to not just one number, but to multiple numbers. I have a Toronto number. I have so many numbers. I have a sales number, just you name it. I have a test number. So I do test quite a bit. So essentially what I'm doing here, I'm saying, hey, if there's a text message sent from any of these numbers, and you can imagine doing it for your team and your colleagues, if this is happening, then create a record in Airtable. Cool. So continue. We're going to do a bit of a trigger, test a trigger. There was a test message here, all good. Just shows you the structure of the data. So cool, continue. Now, this is where what I can do is I can say, okay, where do I want this data to go? Do I want it to go to something like Airtable? Depending on your CRM, there's possibly the chance to push that data to your CRM as well. So for Airtable, I've connected my account, all that is good. So basically, I've already created a base called OpenPhone. I have a table called SMS. I have from. So it's the phone number that I'm texting that I'm texting from. and so the body, what am I actually sending? Test action, I tested it a while ago. Let me retest it. Cool, all good. Let's make sure it's turned on. Very, very important. And I believe there is actually more data that I can push through, but this is just an example. So if I go back to Zapier, I'm actually going to go back to my my basis. I have my OpenPhone base with a whole bunch of stuff. Yep. Oh, wow, this is right. There's quite a bit. So it actually, as you can see, is just an example of from and body. So you can do this here for your phone numbers. Now, you can do something similar for contacts, incoming call log, outgoing call log, etc. So yeah, you can essentially use this as a way to really make sure, whether it's for compliance, audit purposes, all your data is stored in the system that you prefer. I'll pause at this point, see if you all have any questions. And I don't know if I personally like, I know I shouldn't have a preference, but I like Zapier workflows where OpenPhone does actions, because to me that's as you can tell, I like sending SMS, creating contacts. So maybe I'm a little biased, but those are personally my favorite. But you can do obviously triggers too. So, any questions? Maybe here's a question for all of you. What are the tools that you want to set up, that you want to connect with OpenPhone and Zapier? Because as Brenda mentioned, there are thousands of apps, like 3,000 apps at this point. HubSpot, cool. So Katie, I actually have something for you. You mentioned HubSpot, thank you. I actually was playing with something last night with HubSpot. So let's go to HubSpot. Something that I was able to do is the following. If you create a new contact in HubSpot, we can make sure that contact is created in OpenPhone. What that does is the following. If you have someone in your CRM and that person calls you or messages you, you really want to make sure you know it's them, right? There's nothing worse than a phone call and you are not knowing who is calling. Obviously, we want to make sure that's we want to solve that problem for you. So the way that I set up this, and you can see I was playing around a bunch, is, let me show you this app. I've got a HubSpot. Here we go. So I've got this Zap set up where if there is a new contact created in HubSpot, I am creating that contact in OpenPhone to make sure my OpenPhone address book is up to date. So just as usual, connected my HubSpot account, all of that stuff. I set up a trigger. I mean, this was actually pretty simple, just pulls contacts from HubSpot. What happens next is I have set up this action where, okay, it's pulling information here, where essentially I'm configuring what contact data do I want to store in OpenPhone. So I'm setting up the ID as per usual. I'm mapping the first name, last name, company name, if there is company name, job title, of course, phone number. So, and one other thing I'm doing is I'm actually pulling the tag. So as you know, in your CRM, you're going to have people in all stages of the funnel. Like you'll have people who are subscribers, for example. That's a tag. I'm able to pass it on as a tag in OpenPhone. And of course, I am sharing this contact with everyone in my OpenPhone org so that I'm not the only one who has this contact. Cool. So let's see it in action, right? So this is on, just verifying it's on. Let's go to HubSpot. I'm going to create a contact. How many contacts have I created? Let's see, Daryna plus Zap test at openphone.co. Daryna Zet Zapier. Yep, I'm just making sure. I have so many Darynas at this point. Trust me. Let's say marketing. Yep, very important phone number. I'm gonna add my one of my phone numbers here, and I am a subscriber. Let's leave it at that. Cool, pretty simple. I'm not gonna complicate it too much. So I've created a contact, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Cool, let's make sure. Okay, so here I am, Daryna Zapier with my phone number. So now what should happen is this should now, this is the trigger. This should now result in the action of creating or updating contact in OpenPhone. So, okay, let's see. And I created it here in my OpenPhone. Let's make sure. Yeah, I created it in my OpenPhone account. Cool. So I'm gonna just very quickly verify my Zap history. Just briefly, Zap runs. Okay, we've got some other stuff happening in other areas of the business. Cool. So this is the thing, right? Just give it a minute, right? It should be coming through. So the moment it comes through, when I go to contacts, I should see my contact there. I'll pause at this point and I'll show this again to you in like a minute. I'm sure it's going to be there. So yeah.
Another really cool thing that crossed my mind as Daryna was sharing this, and Katie, thanks for asking for this this particular Zap demonstration, is that these Zaps can be shared. So you can share the link immediately with other colleagues, etc. It's really easy once you've created the link to get, or sorry, created the Zap to get a link, and you can paste that link in the chat or in an email or whatever, and they can utilize that same Zap. So your entire team doesn't have to be creating every Zap. So that it triggers an email or a message in Slack when a new contact comes in or something like that. You can share the Zaps pretty easily, and we would highly suggest, if you find a working Zap, to go ahead and do that as well. It'll save your teammates a lot of time. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You can also embed it in different places too. Like we've that's one thing I love, embedding Zaps and Zap templates. You make it very easy and it looks really nice. So I do that. So as you can see, right, it's done, right? 10:41. As you can see, it went successfully. The contact was created. Let's verify it. Let us verify it. What was my name again? I think I was Daryna plus, Daryna plus Zap test. I have a lot of Darynas at this point. So Daryna plus Zap test, please. No, okay. Daryna, I do have to mention, folks, we are, okay, here we go. This is it. Spoiler alert. The reason why I was searching by my email is because we are actually launching that functionality in the new version of the web app, and I'm showing you production. That's coming soon. So that's totally on us. If you want to search people by email, which you totally should, which is very fair, that's coming really, really soon. If anyone from our team is on the webinar, as you can see, we really need that badly. But here we go. The contact has been created. So I say this is a success. This worked. I am feeling this was a little bit of a pressure just watching all this happen in real time. But hey, we made it work. So yeah. Question from Ty. What is your favorite Zap that we use on OpenPhone? Yeah, well, my favorite Zap that we use, there are so many, right? I mean, here's one of my favorite Zaps. When we, so I'll share this with you. If any of you wants to port your phone number to OpenPhone from another provider, we have quite a monster Zap there. We connect Typeform to an e-signature solution called PandaDoc. And basically, when you fill out your Typeform, we send you automatically a form that you can sign, and we pre-fill some of that form with the information you've entered, which creates a really nice customer experience because you don't have to fill out information twice, right? Who likes doing that? And also, we don't need to do it on our end. Zapier takes care of it. So that would be my favorite Zap. And if you wanna check it out, it's actually I'll actually show you this Zap. It's PandaDoc. There you go. Yeah. So this is the Zap. You can, as you can see, it's quite an interesting one. It also it has a filter, and it has I think, Brenda, this is called this is a path, right? Basically, it's a conditional action. Based on how many numbers you're porting, we are taking you to different steps of the workflow, but this is quite a interesting and a very important Zap for us. So if you ever want to port your phone number to OpenPhone, you would actually see that feels very magical, and that's because of how we set it up here on Zapier. So yeah, that would be my favorite Zap. Cool. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we are essentially at the 45-minute mark right now. Thank you all for, I know many of you stayed on for, for all this time. Thank you for being with us. Huge thanks to Brenda. This great having you. This was super fun. I think, folks, if you have any questions, I will actually tie, if we could share a link to our blog post outlining everything I mentioned in detail. I think that would be great. And Brenda, any calls to action, anything that folks should do? Maybe there are resources you have for Zapier, or any way that people can learn more about or level up their Zapier knowledge?
I would definitely check out the Zapier blog. It's quite incredible and always updated on new and important features, and how our users and our partners are upping the game with Zaps. And definitely just play around. It's a lot of fun. I think it can be intimidating at first, but all of a sudden it's a lot of fun, and you start thinking of all the different ways that you can automate your life and save yourself some time. So enjoy, just have fun.
Absolutely. Love that. Testing things out, playing around, saving time, and being happier, right? That's all. That's what we're all about. So have a wonderful day. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ty. And yeah, we'll see you again later. Have a good day.
Have a great one, you guys. Thanks.
Bye.